Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatley Tones Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video. Hope you're all doing well. In today's video I want to talk about Ringo and not so much about his new album, his new country album, which is called Look Up. Although I will be touching on that, but more about my relationship with Ringo's solo career, because I feel like I've hit a little bit of a brick wall with it, and just wanted to discuss it, see what everyone else thinks about generally about Ringo's solo career. So we'll be coming to that in a minute, but there's a couple of other things I just wanted to talk to you about, things that have happened this week. Earlier in the week, just gone, don't know if you saw it, but the George Harrison camp released a new video of the 2024 remix of the track Be Here Now from Living in the Material World. If you haven't heard it, go and listen to it, because it is absolutely stunning, absolutely fantastic. I love it, love it, love it, and it's really whetted my appetite for the Living in the Material World remix, which comes out on the 15th of November in its various guises. I'm getting the box set and I just can't wait for that, and I will obviously be all over that when that drops on the 15th of November with an unboxing and review and all the rest of it, so please stay tuned for that. But go and listen to it if you haven't heard it, because it is outstanding. Also happening in this coming week, on Tuesday sees the premiere in Liverpool of the Brian Epstein biopic called Midas Man. That gets its premiere in Liverpool, and then that's on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday you will be able to stream the film on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, that is where I will go to watch it, and obviously I'll be doing a review of that film soon after. Now personally, I'm not a big fan of the biopic, especially when it is about someone that I like a lot, like a pop star or someone like Brian Epstein, because I always think that the time that is dedicated to these biopics, whether it's an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, hour and 50 minutes or something like that, it's not enough time to tell a life story properly, especially if that person has had an extended career, an important career. However, with Brian Epstein, because he died so young at 27, I'm hoping that this biopic will be long enough to cover all the important things in Brian's life. So that's something that's going to be coming on the channel very soon. I'm going to watch it on Prime on Wednesday, so I'll be doing a review of that soon. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so now let's talk about Ringo. Now, lots of my fellow YouTubers have already done videos on Ringo's new album. It's called Look Up. It comes out on the 10th of January, and it is a country album. And I think it's it's going to be like a modern sounding but traditional country album, and I think that is good news for Ringo, and I think it's good news for us as well. It's got 11 tracks on it. Now 9 of them have been written by the fabulously named T-Bone Burnett, and he is the producer of the album as well. As I say, he's written 9 tracks, and if you don't know T-Bone Burnett, I mean, he is a big deal. He's worked with Bob Dylan and Elton John in the past. I first came across his name because he produced Elvis Costello's fantastic country album from 1986, King of America, which is superb. And he also produced an album by Alison Krauss and Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin, one called Rising Sand, which I have, which is a fantastic album as well. Now there are various people that are doing sort of duets with Ringo on his new album Billy Swan, Billy Sweet, Billy Strings, Molly Tuttle, and the fabulous Alison Krauss as well. If you don't know Alison Krauss, she's a sort of a bluegrass country singer. As I say, the album that she did with Robert Plant, Rising Sand, is fantastic. So, you know, I think that country music has always been very good to Ringo and has been very good for Ringo. I think that genre really suits his voice, not just you know, straightforward traditional country, but country rock as well. You know, we can point at things like Honey Don't from Beatles for Sale, Matchbox from the Long Tall Sally EP, What Goes On from Rubber Soul, Act Naturally, Don't Pass Me By, all songs with a country flavour and all songs that Ringo has dealt with very well. So this, you know, I think this is encouraging news, and that's what I am really hoping for this album. As I say, it comes out on January the 10th. So I think it was the Friday before last that the Ringo Starr camp dropped the first song from the Look Up album. It's called Time on My Hands. You can go and listen to it on YouTube if you haven't already heard it. I've played it a few times, and it didn't blow me away. It didn't blow me away, but I think it's a decent song, probably more than decent. But I think that it gives us encouragement about how good this album might be. It's definitely got signs. For example, the production is superb. There's lots of nice sort of twinkly piano parts in it. Loads of pedal steel guitar, which I really love. But I feel like the theme of the song, as I say, it's very traditional sort of country, and it's a very familiar theme, almost a country cliche, if you like. You know, boy has girl buggers off, boy doesn't have girl anymore. Here's some of the lyrics from the song. I used to have a true love, everything was fine, but now she's found a new love and she's no longer mine. I thought it was forever, but she had other plans, and now these arms are empty and I've got time on my hands. So, you know, it is a little bit trite and a little bit cliched. You know, it's probably only about that far, you know, from, you know, I gave her the ring and she gave me the finger, or, you know, my granny's a cripple from Nashville, or something like that. But I do think that the actual sound of the album gives us encouragement. There's definitely, you know, people complain about auto-tune, but auto-tune for about the last 10 years has been standard practice in you know, in the recording process for all artists, including even you know, young artists as well. So there, you know, has been auto-tune, and there's like a couple of bits in this song where Ringo doesn't quite reach the notes, and auto-tune can't quite correct it. But generally, I think it's a decent song and gives me encouragement about how the album might sound when we get it in January. So I want to talk now about where my relationship with Ringo's back catalogue is currently. And I don't want this to come over as being cruel, but I want it to come over as being honest, because I feel now that whenever I buy a Ringo album, it's a loyalty purchase. And I mean two things by that. Now, firstly, you know, I buy Ringo's albums because he was the drummer in the Beatles, and my loyalty is to the Beatles. But if, say, Ringo had been the drummer in, say, you know, Herman's Hermits, for example, would I be buying albums of this kind of quality if he hadn't been the drummer in the Beatles? And the answer to that is simple. It's no, I wouldn't be going anywhere near these albums at all. So from that point of view, it's a loyalty purchase. The other sign of a loyalty purchase is when you buy a new album, if you don't get a pang of excitement when you buy a new album by an artist, then it's a loyalty purchase. And that is how I feel. I don't feel the same way about a new Ringo album as I do about a new Paul McCartney album, or a reissued box set by John or George, or whatever. That is how it is. I just don't feel that. There's a lot of these albums that I don't really like that much, and I don't really like that about me, that I'm doing it, but I am doing it, and I'm really hoping that this new album, Look It Up, brings me back on side with Ringo. I mean, let's be honest. I'm absolutely delighted that Ringo, at 84 years old, is still putting out new music, and he's still doing the thing that he loves most, and he's going out on tour, even though he never comes to the UK, but he's touring. He does tours in America, so he's living his best life. He's doing what he wants to do, and at 84 years old, that is fantastic. But I have to be honest and say that what he's doing is not always for me. Don't get me wrong. As a drummer, Ringo is my man. I absolutely love him as a drummer. He is a brilliant drummer. So inventive, so original, and he's one of these drummers that you can tell that it's Ringo playing just by listening to what is going on the drums on any particular song. And there are not many drummers that are like that. I think that John Bonham is another one. John Bonham of Led Zeppelin is another one. You can kind of tell both by the sound of his kit and the style of playing that he adopts, that it is John Bonham playing. And Ringo is the same. I just think he's got a fantastic ear for music, and he doesn't he doesn't smother the kit with fill after fill after fill like someone like, say, Keith Moon, for example. He sits within a song and applies the drum track to that song according to what is going on in the song, without ever really dominating. And that is what I love about him, and I've loved about him pretty much from when I first got into the Beatles. Before when I got into the Beatles, I hadn't taken up the drums myself, but it was like listening to Ringo and one or two other drummers as well that inspired me to say, I want to be a drummer. I want to be like that bloke over there, Ringo. Because he's a fabulous musician. But I feel that when he's putting out solo albums, and let's be honest, he's probably put out more solo albums than any other drummer in rock music or in pop music. I'm pretty sure of that. There are other drummers that have put out a few solo albums, people like Phil Collins or Roger Taylor from Queen, but Ringo has probably put out more albums than anyone else. And I always feel that carrying an entire album is a little bit of a stretch for Ringo, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But as a drummer in the Beatles, he is my man. So let's go back. And the other thing that I also want to say, while we're just talking about Ringo's drumming, is there are a lot of people that have never picked up a pair of drumsticks in their life, that are only too happy to slag Ringo off and say he's not a good drummer without really knowing what it takes to be a drummer. But there is, if you don't take my word for it, take there is a video out on YouTube where there are a lot of famous drummers talking about Ringo and how good he is. People like Phil Collins and Dave Grohl, and I can't remember all the others, but it's out there. There's a lot of drummers that absolutely inspired by Ringo. But let's talk about his solo career. The new album, country album, it's going to be his second country album. It's kind of a follow-up to this one, Buckaroo Blues, and this is a well-respected album. This is an album, you know, none of the songs written by Ringo, but written for him. So they're all new songs on this album. Ringo does a really good job with this album, and as I say, it's very well respected. You know, the follow-up album to that, Ringo, you know, Ringo, he had a lot of help with this album, and a lot of, you know, high profile help as well, including you know, the 3 ex-Beatles. And Ringo will never probably put out a better album than this. This is his finest moment of his solo career, without a doubt, I think. And you know, but even this album has got a couple of country songs on it. You know, Sunshine Life for me, written by George, is a country song. Step Lightly, a song written by Ringo himself, is a country song. So as I say, country music has been, you know, smattered across his solo albums. You know, throughout his career, it's always been a big genre for him. Now, once we get to Ringo, though, for me, I feel that we get to a certain point where each album gives us diminishing returns. In other words, each album is slightly worse than the one that precedes it. So, you know, as I say, I haven't pulled all the albums out, but you know, Goodnight Vienna is a weaker album than Ringo. Ringo's Road to Couture is a weaker album than Goodnight Vienna. You know, Ringo the Fourth, I think, is a pretty poor album with not much to recommend it. Bad Boy, its follow-up, even worse. I think this is a, you know, a terrible album with nothing much to recommend it. Now, he picked up a little bit with Stop and Smell the Roses from 1981. This is a slightly better album, but still a pretty mediocre album, and an album that we are still getting re-releases for. You know, there was a Record Store Day, there was a coloured vinyl issue of this. I hear it's now coming out on a picture disc next month, which, you know, is a big, you know, it's quite a big deal, for you know, for a mediocre album like that. The next one, Old Wave, so poor that he couldn't even get, you know, a record deal in major territories like the UK and the US for this, and it came out, you know, in Canada and Germany and Mexico. Eventually got you know, a release in other territories, but, you know, again, not a very well thought of album. There's a couple of decent tracks on it, as there are on all of Ringo's albums, but, you know, not much to talk about as an album. And then there was a massive gap, and then we got this one here, Time Takes Time, which was a real you know, return to form. You've got Don Was, Jeff Lynne, Peter Asher and Phil Ramone involved in the production of this album, and it was a much better album. But I think, you know, I still think that this is, you know, an album that is probably given much more credence because it was such a leap up from Old Wave, but probably, you know, still not an absolutely fantastic album, but a decent album. And just sort of going back to Old Wave, you know, like Stop and Smell the Roses, this is another album that is getting a picture disc release next month, and we got a coloured vinyl version of this for Record Store Day a couple of years ago as well. Again, you know, a real big deal for this album and Stop and Smell the Roses. But yet we can't seem to get a box set for the Ringo album, the best album that, you know, that he's made. You know, he made the Christmas album, which I've sort of done a full review of as well on the channel. And we sort of get into the sort of the Mark Hudson era, and, you know, these albums, this one here, Vertical Man, you know, it's an okay album. It's got a few high points on it. But, you know, it's, again, fairly average. Ringo Rama as well had a couple of decent tracks, you know, Never Without You, Imagine Me There, and stuff like that. And when we got into this era, we kind of got a couple of themes going on in Ringo's songs. There seem to be, you know, a lot of songs about being, you know, a young man in Liverpool growing up, being in the Beatles, songs about being in the Beatles, songs about members of the Beatles, you know, a song about John, a song about George, things that he would go back to time and time again. And then we kind of got into the peace and love thing. And, you know, the thing about peace and love is that, you know, we could all do with a bit of love and peace and love in our lives. It's an important thing, but the more times you keep banging on about it, the less impact that little soundbite has, because, you know, you just kind of get to, oh, it's Ringo banging on about peace and love again. And I feel like he became a little bit of a caricature, you know, always being seen and photographed with his, you know, with a peace sign and all that sort of stuff, which is a shame. I don't really want that for Ringo. The next album, Choose Love, this is an album that I quite like. I thought this album is bold and brash and quite heavy and loud, and it's got some decent songs on it, like Choose Love. Give Me Back the Beat is quite, you know, is a bit of fun. There's a song called Fading In, Fading Out, which is really good as well. And Don't Hang Up, I think, is on this one, which is decent as well. Liverpool 8 is an album that I really like. This is an album that's not that well liked by fans, but I really like this one. The track Liverpool 8 is very, very strong. That is the track listing of this album, and I don't think that there are any bad songs on this album at all. It's also got a tribute to Harry Nilsson on this called Harry's Song, which I really like. So, you know, Liverpool 8 is a good album. 2010 saw the release of Why Not, another poor album, I thought. It had one good track on it. I thought the Other Side of Liverpool, another song about Liverpool, but this time talking about the dark side of Liverpool. It's good, but it also had a track on it called Peace Dream that went something like, I had a peace dream last night, you know how dreams can be, there was a much better world waiting for you and me. The album finished with a track called Who's Your Daddy? And this was a duet with Joss Stone. Now, Joss Stone was a young girl from either Devon or Cornwall, can't really remember, in the southwest of England, and she was a soul singer. And at the age of 16, she had a huge album called The Soul Sessions, and it was massive here in the UK. And she did a few other albums, but she gradually faded from view. In 2010, she did this album with Ringo, and she sings sort of the lead vocal on this track, Who's Your Daddy? And in the background, Ringo is singing, Who's Your Daddy? Who's Your Daddy? Who's Your Daddy? And it's just like 17 different types of wrong. The next album was 2012, Ringo 2012. Again, a track called In Liverpool on it. You see where we're going with this, don't you? It also had a cover of Rock Island Line and a remake of Step Lightly off the Ringo album. So, you know, inspiration is running out. There were only 9 tracks on that album. 2015, Postcards from Paradise. The first track is called Rory and the Hurricanes. So it goes on. Give more love. This one had remakes of Back Off Boogaloo, Don't Pass Me By, You Can't Fight Lightning, and Photograph. So again, inspiration is running low, and you know, what's my name? This had a cover of John's Grow Old With Me, which is not bad. It's also got a track on it called Send Love, Spread Peace. And to everyone's kind of relief, Ringo then announced he's not making albums anymore, and it just all went a bit crazy with EPs. And you know, I don't need to talk about these EPs too much, because we've all talked about them before when they came out. But this one, the third in the series, he couldn't even be bothered to give a name. It was just called EP3. And this one, Rewind Forward, had a song on it written by Paul McCartney, in which Paul plays on it and sings on it. And even that wasn't enough to save that one. But the thing about these EPs was they were coming out on 10-inch vinyl or 12-inch vinyl, depending on which EP it was. I don't even know why we have 10-inch vinyl. I just find it really annoying because it's too big to sit on the shelf with your singles. It's too small to sit properly on the shelf with your LPs. And they even put them out on cassettes as well, and people bought them on cassette even though they had nothing to play them on. But that wasn't the biggest crime. The crime was the price. That these EPs, if you wanted them on vinyl, they were £22 or £25, you know, ranging from £22 to £25, and they only had 4 tracks or 5 tracks on them. And I just wasn't having that at all. I wasn't having that at all. So I bought them on CD. But even on CD, these were the price of a CD album. £10, £11 for these on CD. So when Crooked Boy came out earlier this year, you know, co-written with Linda Perry, I thought that was a match made in hell. I never liked the songwriting of Linda Perry, and I didn't think she was a good match to work with Ringo. And again, you know, if you wanted it on vinyl, it was 25 quid. If you wanted it on CD, it was 11 quid. So I streamed it and I played it a few times, and I just really didn't like it. So I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it on CD or LP. I thought it had one decent track on it, which was February Sky. But the whole EP, 4 tracks on it, on the EP, it clocked in at under 15 minutes of music, and that is just totally wrong. It's totally wrong. And you know what? I don't mind admitting these EPs, I haven't played any of them since I first bought them. You know, first bought them, played them a couple of times to listen to the tracks, and I haven't played them since. So Crooked Boy now remains a hole in my Ringo collection. It's the only thing that I don't have, and I don't really have any intention of buying it. But I am really hoping that Look Up is going to be a return to form, and it's going to bring me back on side with Ringo. So I went to Ringo's website, and on Ringo's website, it is completely geared up only for people who live in the United States. Everything on the website is priced in dollars. There is no button on the website to convert it to your local currency. So you put in an item in your basket, and then you start typing in your address, and you know it's got to ship it to the UK in my case, and it then adds on shipping, and it adds on tax. And there are for this album, there is a white clear vinyl issue and a black vinyl issue, and there is a CD, and you can stream it if you want to. If you want to do a download from his site, it costs you $10. If you want the CD, it's $11.99, which is an okay price because this is a full album. But the black vinyl is not even on Ringo's website. You can't even buy it on Ringo's website, but you can buy it on Amazon.co.uk, and it's £27.99, which is, you know, much more reasonable. But if you were to buy the clear vinyl, so I just did the test. I put the clear vinyl into my basket on Ringo's website, and then started typing in my address. It then, so the album on its own was $32.99. I then added I put in my address. It then added shipping of $12, and it added US tax of $9, making a total of $53.50. And you have to pay in dollars. There's no other option to pay in your own currency. You have to pay in dollars. And when I converted $53.50 into pounds sterling, that came to £41.20. So, you know, we've only just got our heads around the fact that we're being asked to pay, you know, £30 for, you know, for a vinyl album, and now this is over £40 for a vinyl album in no time at all. So I'm not having that at all. I'm gonna just order the CD, I think, and be done with it. And that's it. And that's my rant over. Really, you'll be glad to hear. But you know, this whole thing with the pricing of the EPs. Totally wrong, and I think the price of this LP, if you want it on clear vinyl, is overpriced as well. But the CD, I think, is a decent price, and thank goodness they haven't got a cassette as well. Okay, so that is it. So that is kind of where I am with, you know, with Ringo's back catalogue at the moment. Not in a good place, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. You know, as I said, I don't want to offend anyone. I'm just trying to be honest, and this is honestly how I feel about it. So are you still buying Ringo's albums or EPs? Do you feel like they're a loyalty purchase for you, or are you excited about buying Ringo's albums? Are you excited about Ringo's new country album, Look Up? And you know, are you getting it? Do tell me down in the comments. You know, I love to read your comments, and I will respond to all your comments. Okay, that is it from me. You'll be glad to hear. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.